I'm on the Staten Island ferry going to see Art Siegel and hopefully some other people there that don't know much about the pipeline, but they know a whole lot about this shale gas revolution.
My name is Art Siegel. I'm a resident of Sunnyside, Staten Island. As you can see, I'm very concerned about hydrofracking in the state of New York. That's why we have the sign here from the folks from New York for clean water.
Who is New York for clean water?
Pardon?
Where is that based out of?
New York for clean water is based right here in Staten Island. And the chairperson of that organization, of that environmental civil society, is Susan Chu and Carl Chu, her husband. And we have a growing number of members in our organization who are just as concerned about hydrofracking and the dangers and risks of high volume hydraulic fracturing as anybody can be. I became aware of the issue of, I became aware of the risks of hydraulic fracturing because I have a tree farm in Delaware County, New York.
Is it controversial in that town?
It's very controversial. It's controversial everywhere in the state. There are more than 25 grassroots environmental civil societies in the state of New York that have grown up just recently because of this issue of the risk of hydraulic fracturing in the state of New York. The issue of hydrofracking in New York State, it could affect every single person in the state. If, for example, if the water in the New York City watershed were to become polluted and the EPA were to revoke or rescind the FAD agreement, which is the Federal Avoidance Determination, which allows New York City to use unfiltered water in its water supply. If that privilege were rescinded, New York City would have to build a filtration plant, which would be the largest filtration plant ever constructed in the history of the world, because it would have to supply 9 million people with clean, potable water. And the cost of constructing a facility like that ranges anywhere from $5 to actually $30 billion. And it's never been done before. And even if the funds were available, and they're not available, it would take many, many years to construct those facilities. There are two major watersheds that supply New York City with its 1.2 billion gallons of water necessary to supply New York City consumers with water. That's the Croton-on-Hudson reservoir system in Westchester County, which supplies the city of New York with about 10% of its water supply. And then that's the east of Hudson water supply. So you have the east of Hudson, Croton-on-Hudson water supply, watershed, and then you have the west of Hudson New York City watershed, which consists of 6 major reservoirs and covers about 1 million acres, or about 1,400 square miles, actually. And those reservoirs are absorbing water from, as I say, an area of a million acres. Okay.
And that's where the drilling is.
Well, right now there is no legal protection or regulatory protection for the 1 million acre New York City watershed, which hosts 6 major reservoirs, all of which are used to supply New York City's 1.2 billion gallons of water daily. New York City residents use 1.2 billion gallons of water daily. Actually, it might be less than that, but at peak times that's what they use. But it could be as little as 600,000 gallons, but we won't quibble about it. The reason why the gas companies are coming to Pennsylvania and they want to come into New York State and drill for gas is because in the last couple of decades they've been perfecting an unconventional method of drilling for gas. It's called high volume hydraulic fracturing. And by using that method, they can reach down up to 8,000 feet below the surface of the earth, and they can reach the tight shales that contain a great deal of gas. And this gas was not obtainable before because it is sealed into this very tight shale. And this new unconventional method called horizontal high volume hydraulic fracturing will actually separate the gas from this tight shale by using that new drilling method.
Okay, so yeah, because I think people are overwhelmed with all these different environmental issues. Do you think this is one that just sort of is unique and is one that people should be alarmed of?
Yes, because we've never used, up until recently, most gas was obtained by means of vertical wells, and the gas that was recovered came from pockets of gas below the surface of the earth, but not trapped in tight shales. So they have to use a much more expensive and much more invasive and much more violent kind of drilling and use a plethora of chemicals, many of which, actually hundreds of chemicals, many of which are toxic to humans and other forms of life on this planet. And so it is different.
And so why is this happening now?
It's happening now because gas prices, for two reasons. Gas prices are high enough to make it economically feasible for gas companies to use this process, and the technology of horizontal fracturing has been perfected to the degree where it's also technologically feasible for them to do it. That's why.
Well, a lot of the people that are pro-gas say we need it for trucks and fleet and commercial vehicles. Do you think that's true?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry.
That we need natural gas for commercial vehicles?
Well, we actually, if we use natural gas for commercial vehicles or any vehicles, we're going to lengthen the time that we need to actually rid ourselves of this terrible habit of using fossil fuels. So I don't see any advantage of using a natural gas for fuel, except that of course it would burn cleaner, but why not go right to electric?
Do you think it's just realistic to instead go into more renewable energies?
Yes, I can tell you that renewable energy, genuinely renewable energy like wind and solar, is actually doubling about every 2 to 3 years. And that doubling time is going to become shorter and shorter as time goes on. In the United States today, we derive about 2 to 3% of all our electrical generation from wind and solar, primarily wind. It's at least 2% wind, and there's another small percentage of solar energy. And that's up from almost an unmeasurable amount of electrical generation just 10 years ago. Actually, wind and solar were more like an electrical generating novelty rather than a substantial share of electrical generation in the United States. But it has become a lot more than that. In Germany today, 20% of all electrical generation is produced by wind and solar. And the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, has recently announced that Germany will be fossil fuel free by 2050.
Hi, I'm Charlie Olson from Staten Island. Belong to a few different groups that are fighting hydrofracking and anything to do with hydrofracking, such as the pipeline and the Natural Gas Act, otherwise it's a Methane Gas Act.
So there's a lot of people in New York City against hydrofracking.
They do not know a good deal about this or what is happening here, and that's what our group is, most of our groups are trying to do.
Well, there's a lot of people in United for Action, right?
There's 3,000 on the mailing list at this time, and there's a number of active people, up to about 100 who are out there in the street at the tabling, etc. The presentations that we're at, the movies where we're showing Gasland and other films, and joining with other groups.
What about in Staten Island? Do you think there's a broad awareness of the threats of hydrofracking on Staten Island?
No, we don't really know much about that.
People know about Indian Point, and people know about offshore drilling rigs.
Well, they know about the problem in New Orleans, but again, it fades from their minds. They don't keep it there. Indian Point fades from their minds. Here on Staten Island, we have 2 large LNG, or liquid nitrogen gas, tanks. They're about 150 feet high, I believe. And you can see them along the highway. We had a number of people die here, and then they were closed down. This was about 1965, I believe, somewhere in that area, while I was in the Army at that time. And very few people remember it. They'll ask, what are those tanks? Or they'll just pass it by and not pay attention to it.
The pipeline's going to go from around here, it's going to go across, and going to go this way and all the way across here to Bayonne. Something like that. Right through here. Like Linden, going to go through this way. Somewhere around.
Oh, okay. So over here is New Jersey.
And this is New Jersey. This is Bayonne, New Jersey.
This is all
Anyway.
Staten Island here.
Yeah, but it's only going to go through this northwest corner.
And you're saying you don't think it's going to go by a lot of people?
No, not really. It's going to go through this tank farm here, which is not even a tank farm anymore. There's nothing there. And it's going to go through this, and then across, along this boulevard here, and somewhere near this bridge, I think.
My spouse got there. She saw that I already like
This is rare, but it's a New York City map that actually fits Staten Island on it without having to put it in a box. So that's what it really looks like. And sometimes I think a lot of New Yorkers don't know exactly how far close Staten Island is, but it's like that. And then here's a map of New Jersey, and it shows how close the bottom of Jersey City is to, or New Jersey to Staten Island. And then that up there is where Manhattan is. So that's the bottom of Manhattan down to Staten, so it makes sense now, right? The Brooklyn Bridge was the greatest engineering feat of its era. The bridge was built primarily by hand over a 14-year period from 1869 to 1883. As many as 600 people worked on the bridge at a time, and 27 lives were lost during the construction.
I don't know what it takes to really get people going and to get involved in something. Unfortunately, it probably will take a disaster of some kind. And we have enough knowledge and enough. This is not 10,000 years ago, it's not 5,000 years ago, it's not even 300 years ago. We have so many educated people on the planet today, so many PhDs, master's degree, and postgraduate degree people with advanced knowledge. Our literacy rate is so great. We really use our intellect and our reasoning. We should be able then to take a look at the next 5,000 years in the future and say, where do we wish to be? How do we get there? We should be looking at, as much as is possible, using our knowledge, our human intellect, to make this planet a very safe place.
Thank you. I was thinking, also, if you can lift 50 pounds, you can put a solar panel on a rooftop.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't know how much weight I could lift, but I think we have a lot of people that would just like to go outside and build things that don't have jobs.
Sounds good to me. we should be doing on the planet here, looking at ourselves as one planet, as one human race, and trying to head towards wisdom. And this is just something that is just beyond us. Jesus couldn't do it, Muhammad couldn't do it, Abraham couldn't do it, Gandhi, Lincoln, Kennedy, even the rock and roll people and the heavy metal people can't get us together to do that. It's going to take a long time. I hope we last as a human race so that we can finally agree that we should be working together and stop fighting each other over religion, the color of skin, and the sexuality of us, and any other reason. This is a waste of our abilities, just a waste.
Thank you.